Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video, I'm going to educate you on an article that I just read, and it's titled Weekly THC Levels Reveal When Cannabis Use Becomes a Disorder. And I looked at the title of this thing and I said, you have to be kidding me. It's almost as if they're saying, it's okay to use a little bit, but when it gets to a certain level, then it's a problem. I mean, it's kind of like the whole idea of California sober, and that came out. It came about because I think one of these I don't know, pop stars or movie stars or whatever said, it's okay to use a little bit of marijuana, and meanwhile her life was falling to pieces. And I think she came to the conclusion that maybe not a good idea. So I'll put a link to the article in the description with the video. It says here, in a recent study published in Addiction, I guess that's a magazine, researchers report that weekly cannabis use measured in standard THC units can distinguish individuals with and without cannabis use disorder, CUD, C-U-D, a condition in which cannabis leads to distress or impairment. In particular, adolescents exhibited lower risk thresholds than adults, suggesting that these individuals are more vulnerable to CUD at lower levels of weekly THC exposure. CUD affects about 1 in 5 people who use cannabis and is a major public health concern, particularly among adolescents. If they had called me, I would have told them this stuff. This is completely ridiculous. I think this article, respectfully, is a bloody joke. Here's my thoughts, and I've been pretty vocal about this, as I said, but it's worth repeating because I feel pretty strongly about this stuff. Look, as a child of the 80s, I grew up in the United Kingdom, and I had many friends that smoked marijuana. And honestly, for the most part, with the exception of one, maybe two that went on to start using harder drugs and got themselves into all kinds of mischief and trouble, for the most part, they all went on to lead very productive lives. And when they talked about legalizing it here in Florida, I have to concede, and I have done in the past, that I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. I said, it's just marijuana, no big deal. Well, it turns out I was wrong. In fact, I was very wrong. And I think what I didn't really anticipate was that there were going to be so many young people, that were going to be using the new legalized marijuana. And I also didn't anticipate that just because it's, quote, legal, that it wasn't going to be safe, because the marijuana of today is not the marijuana of the 1980s. This stuff is extremely potent, and if you're younger than 25 and your brain's still forming, it will damage your brain and it will lower your IQ permanently. And my message to parents, based on, at this point, speaking to thousands of families over the last 10 years about these kinds of issues, is don't let your children use this stuff. And when I say children, I'm using that as a generic term because I just turned 59 and my mother still thinks I'm her little boy. And I'm willing to bet if you're a mom or even a dad watching this video, however old your child is, they're still their little boy or the little girl to you. So I use the term generically. But this stuff is really dangerous. And, apparently they've come up with some idea of measurement. There's a certain level that it's okay and you don't get the disorder, and a certain level where it's not okay and you do have the disorder. I think this is completely ridiculous. I really do. I can't tell you how many young adults we have where we're working with their parents because their life has been turned upside down by this new legalized marijuana. This stuff is dangerous. Do not let your young adult children use this stuff as best you can. Okay? In my world, from the perspective that I look at things, no level of use is acceptable. It simply isn't. Now, look, in the past, I put out videos talking about this kind of stuff. I think I also put out one about alcohol. And I had somebody who posted in the comments on YouTube, oh, I'm a party pooper. Don't listen to this guy. He's a party pooper. Maybe I am. Perhaps I am a party pooper. But you see, my mission is to save families. And it's to save families whose loved ones are suffering from substance use, mental health disorders, and failed attempts at recovery. So I come at this from a very different level. And look, if you're an adult and you want to sit in your house all day, get stoned, get high, get drunk, hey, have fun, do your thing. But in my world, well, that kind of conduct makes people very unproductive, and worse, it destroys their family and it destroys their life. So I'm not telling you how to live your life. I'm just telling you that where I come from, this marijuana is dangerous. It is dangerous, and it will wreck your child's life, and it will wreck your family. So that's my 2 cents. I don't agree with this article. But hey, who am I? I'm just one guy sitting here in South Florida taking calls from all over the country from mums and dads who are frankly sick and tired of, well, being sick and tired because their family's being destroyed. So if you have any comments or questions, or if you disagree with me, or if you think I'm a party pooper, post them. I read all of these comments. Most of them are positive, but some people say, hey, don't listen to this guy. He's a party pooper. Okay, I don't have a problem with you insulting me. I don't take it personally, but I do want to hear from you so we can have some discourse, because at the end of the day, it's about, people that sometimes disagree, having a conversation. And I read all of the comments and questions and comments that you post. And actually, if you have a really interesting comment or question, I'd be inclined to do a video about that. How about that? I think that's something I'd have fun doing. I enjoy the interaction with people who watch these videos. If you like the content, please give me a thumbs up. I try to put a video out at least once a day, sometimes twice. If you want to get more of this content, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to me go on a little bit of a rant this morning. I'm just real passionate about this stuff. And with that said, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.